I'll just give you a brief rundown of what we're covering off on the webinar today. We're very fortunate to have Aziz and Neil from Forbidden Technologies in the UK with us today, especially at what can only be an obscene time of the day for them, with IBC in Amsterdam starting very shortly, in a week or so. I know they must be flat out, so thanks to you guys for taking the time out from your schedules to join us today. We've got a fair bit to cover off this morning. The intention is to provide an overview of where Forscene fits, practical applications and operational fundamentals in order to consider real-world commercial benefits for the application, give you an overview looking at cloud editing and how it would be operational in a perfect world. We'll be conducting a short live demonstration and giving you an overview of Forbidden Technology. We'll be doing a wrap-up afterwards and question and answer session. If you want to know more after the webinar, then Digistor are the people to contact. There we are, waiting by the phone for your call, anxiously. Digistor is the Australian New Zealand Forscene dealer. You can contact us to discuss your specific project and workflow. Everybody's workflow is different. Everybody's project is different. All we can do today is give you a short overview and seed the ideas so you can start thinking about how it might apply to you, and then come back to us and we'll talk to you more about how that can specifically work for you. We can arrange personal demonstrations to cover off the workflow that suits you, and or if you just wanted to find out more about pricing and options, then contact us. So that's our main phone number there, the general inquiries email address, or just go to our website and there's a contact form there for anything that you need. That single sentence that's on there on your screen at the moment is essentially what Digistor does. But specific to Forscene, what Digistor does is integrate Forscene into advanced television, entertainment and sports production workflow solutions so that we can enable collaborative environments to achieve rapid production and distribution. So Forscene is one of the arrows to our quiver that we use to integrate into full production workflow solutions. If you've got an ideal project to get to the end of this webinar and you can find an area where Forscene could fit and explore it with Digistor and Forbidden, and if it suits the application, we'll provide access to the Forscene for 1 month at no charge for a proof of concept. So if you can get back to us and work with us and Forbidden to find your project before the end of October, we'll provide the software, provide free access for a month so that you can get a proof of concept for your particular project at no expense for the Forscene access. So bear that in mind if you're thinking about following up after the end of the webinar. I want to hand over to Aziz, CEO of Forbidden Technologies. So if you bear with me for one moment, I'll just make him the presenter. So just one sec.
My name's Aziz. Good afternoon. I'm the CEO of Forbidden Technologies PLC. I just want to start by saying how happy we are to finally have found a reseller in Australia that we can work with, that's got the credence, got the credibility, and really understands the value of our technology. So it's been a long time coming trying to bring this technology into Australia, so we're delighted to be partnering with Digistor. A little bit about Forbidden Technologies. So Forbidden Technologies is a public company in the UK. We floated in 2000. You have probably never heard of our founder, Stephen Streeter, but you almost definitely played one of his games because he was also the founder of a company called IDOS that was famous for Championship Manager and Tomb Raider, including hundreds of other games too in the 90s. He is also a Cambridge PhD mathematician, and he has been on the forefront of software and then cloud video editing really since the concept even existed. We launched our first product in 2004. We have the most advanced cloud video solution in the world. It was then, and it remains to be so now. Incredibly well protected. Many bigger companies than us have tried and failed to replicate what we do. So they're all really big claims, but I'm sure that when you get to the demonstration, you'll just see the power of our technology. So we have one platform of technology with multiple views and multiple solutions. As Mark said before, there's no way that we could go through the entirety of our platform today, so please do reach out to Mark and the team at Digistore and have a separate demonstration if you'd like. We can show you things very specific to your workflow and do ask questions as we go. So our main product is Forscene. It's an NLE in the cloud, works in a browser. It doesn't do any rendering, it doesn't slow down. It feels like you've got the software and the hardware there on your computer, but it's actually running in a browser, and that's our secret sauce. Our secret sauce is our codec that allows you to believe and feel like you're using an NLE from your desktop when in fact you're using it in a browser. It's multi-platform, so it works on basically any computer, any phone, any tablet, and we have native apps for iOS and Android. We'll spend much of this demonstration showing you Forscene. We also have a series of mobile SDKs, and we'll show you a little bit of this later. You can essentially upload mobile content from anywhere in the world directly into Forscene with almost no delay. So we'll give you a little demonstration of that. In a couple of weeks, we're releasing the first version of our review solution, really dedicated to executive producers and corporate clients who have clients that want to quickly review and comment against content. So that'll be a very powerful experience for those people. And then we probably won't spend any time on this today, but if you would like to have a look at it, we can set some time up separately. We have a product called Forscene Lite, which is a super simple clip and share editor with a zero learning curve, really. We've created a way to edit video for everybody because the learning curve to editing video is so steep. Most of the clients that use that solution are in sports, so sports franchises, particularly in the US, who don't hire video editors, mainly schools or college sports. They have marketing managers and they really don't want to outsource the work, so they just use a simple clip and share editor, and that's Forscene. That's Forscene Lite. Like I said, though, we only have one platform, so all of these products work together. Any content that you see in Forscene Lite can be seen in Forscene. Any content you upload from your mobile app can be uploaded into either solution. So why do clients use us? For the most part, it's to make more money. We help our clients significantly reduce workflow times. So our current record workflow time reduction was 75%, and that was with a show called Bangkok Airport for the BBC. They were shooting their content, unsurprisingly, in Bangkok Airport, and the original workflow was to shoot the content, ship the rushes back by FedEx, and then start the offline edit. And with Forscene, they were able to wrap for a day, go to back up the cards, and as they were backing up the cards, our transcode solution was transcoding that content into our native proxy and into our proprietary proxy and putting that content into the cloud. Typically, our transcode process is 2 times real time, so you end up completing the transcode before the backup is complete. As soon as the content has started to move into Forscene, any editor anywhere in the world can start editing that content, and that's exactly what they do. So by the time the high-res rushes have made their way back to the UK via FedEx, all of the edit is done. The story edit is done. So they conform against that story edit and then send it to an encoder. What's also interesting is that they very quickly found that the producers and executive producers could feed back on set. So the executive producers based in London could look at the rushes during the day, call the team on the ground and say, actually, that storyline's not really going anywhere, follow this storyline, follow that storyline. So it really transformed how they were making that show, and that's not atypical. That's very typical of our use cases. We very often see very significant reductions in workflow times. We get content to market quicker than anyone else. Again, a big claim, but we've tested it and we know it to be true. So if you work in sports or news or anywhere where live content is important, we can go from content being live to edited, properly edited, not just clipped edited like a snappy TV, properly edited and distributed to your apps, your website, to your social media in under a minute. So again, if peak audiences are critical for your business, Forscene can make a very dramatic difference to your workflows. We're a SaaS product, so there's typically there's no hardware. If you're a post house and you have tens of thousands of hours or maybe thousands of hours of content that you want to transcode, we may recommend a shuttle box or some hardware to do the transcode, but typically there's no hardware involved in setting up a Forscene instance. And also, we scale as you scale. So if 1 month you need 10 licenses, we give you 10 licenses, and if the next month you just need 1, we'll give you 1. So it's complete flexibility in how you use the system. And finally, we allow you, again, particularly in news and sports, but also in reality TV, to monetize your archive. All that content that you've got in cold storage in AWS or in Azure, we have a partnership that will allow us to tag all of the metadata against that content. We can transcode all that content automatically into our cloud, and we can make it searchable within the interface. So within the interface that Neil will show you in just a moment, you will have live streams coming in, mobile content coming in, and you'll have access to all of your archives as well as all of your produced content. So again, incredibly powerful if you have lots of archives. So our clients in television, we work with most of the big broadcasters, ITV, BBC, ITV America, and typically what we're offering is a way to do an offline edit without the need for an edit suite. So in markets where there is high cost pressures against productions, and that's not every market, but it certainly is in America and less so in the UK, we tend to offer significantly reduced cost advantages to those markets, because you can do your offline edit on the train, on your Mac, on an iPad, and it really is a proper offline edit. So again, Neil will show you that, and I know some of you will be skeptical, but we'll show you what that means in a moment. We do, I affectionately call it most of the NAF TV that's on, so stuff like Come Down With Me, The Island, Gold Rush, The Voice, stuff that is on in the evenings and the daytimes that fills the slots, and that has a cost pressure associated with it. In sports, we do scores of sporting events, but we recently signed with Madison Square Gardens. Very interesting workflow with Madison Square Gardens. They were previously using Adobe Premiere to distribute their digital content to social and to their apps. Their typical workflow was anywhere between 35 and 55 minutes long, and by using our solution, they were able to get that same content out to market within 5 minutes. So, in terms of competitive advantage, before Forscene, they basically got their content to market 4th or 5th. Bleacher Report were always the first. And then after Forscene, they're able to get that content to market quicker than anyone else and access that audience much sooner than anyone else. We also do Wimbledon and scores of other events, the Champions League, MLS, things like that. And then we have a raft of ABC and NBC news affiliates across the US, all supported by our partner in the US, Field 59. The market that we operate in is defined by collaboration, technical collaboration in particular, and no one system stands alone, and Forscene epitomizes that. We integrate with most of the solutions either side of our workflow or of our value chain. We have a native integration with Final Cut Pro, so you can push content to Final Cut Pro and back into Forscene and shift edits between the two systems. You can do an AF export for Avid and Premiere. We distribute to social and CDNs. We ingest from AWS and Azure and basically anywhere that you've got your content. So essentially what we're saying is that wherever your content is, we can get it. Whatever you want to do with it, we can do. And wherever you want to send it, we can send it. So I'm going to hand over to Neil. Neil is our product specialist. We hired Neil a few years ago, very specifically because he's an award-winning editor. He's 20 years editing experience. He claims to have used every NLE that was ever created. He's certainly old enough to be able to pull that claim off. So we'll give him that. And he's done shows, hundreds of shows for the BBC, ITV, Channel 4. He's an award-winning editor. And I've bigged you up so much there, Neil, that I hope you don't let me down.
I'm going to go in. I'm going to start out. I'm going to show you Forscene in a little while, but I just want to go through a little bit of theory. So when you first talk to people about cloud-based editing, of course, everyone has this immediate vision, and you sort of take your existing workflow and say, what would happen if we put it in the cloud? So in an ideal world, this is how cloud-based post-production could work. You take your camera rushes, You transfer them to your DIT station on location or wherever you may be, and we'd all have infinite bandwidth connections and huge amounts of storage in the cloud, so we'd just squirt all our full resolution material up into the cloud, and then we'd have various editing workstations scattered around, and they would also be connected to the cloud with those infinite bandwidth connections, and so we'd just be able to work from the full resolution material in the cloud. And then we'd publish out, nothing would be a problem. We think that that's possibly about 10 years off, if that, and the problem is, of course, that as bandwidth keeps going up, so do the bandwidth requirements of the different formats. So we've already gone from SD to HD to 4K, and 8K is lurking on the horizon. So the way that Forscene works, if we just redraw this diagram, let's say in today's world, this is how Forscene can actually be used now. So you take your same camera rushes, and then you go to your backup procedure, your DIT station, and as you're backing up your content to your drives, we use a low bandwidth connection to upload proxies of your media in the cloud. So the majority of what you're storing in the cloud is just a proxy. It's an offline representation of your media. We can use those same low bandwidth connections. In fact, you can work with a 1.5 megabit connection and still work in real time to Forscene workstations, an iPad, for example. You can view your material, you can log it, you can sync it, you can work with multicam, you can transcribe and translate, you can set that content to be used as subtitles or closed captions. You can also upload full resolution media from mobile devices straight into your cloud, and the proxies for that media becomes available immediately in Forscene, and we'll show you that in just a little while. And then you can publish directly to social media, either publishing using the proxies or linking back to the full resolution media on the server or on the storage where it may be in order to publish. And then if you need to finish to a broadcast standard, you can actually transfer metadata from Forscene into Avid, Final Cut or Premiere, relink back to the original full resolution material, conform, and then finish in that environment. So that's how we can work with Forscene at the moment. So without further ado, I'll just switch across and take you into the Forscene environment. So this is where I find myself when I first log in to Forscene. This is my login screen. I can see a list of the projects that I have access to. This is the back end for the system, so I've got the ability to configure the project. I can see who are the users who are logged into this account. I can go in and I can see usage statistics. So, for example, I can look at how much media storage is being used in this project.
Neil, even though I am a poor substitute for you, why don't I just take over the demonstration for now, and then you can sort your computer out.
Okay, I'll be back with you in a second. Go ahead.
The first thing to say is that we haven't reinvented the editing wheel. NLEs are designed a certain way because editors work a certain way, and it's the most efficient way possible. But at the same time, we haven't made assumptions about how every editor wants to work. So it will, it looks like an NLE. If I put some content into it, it will bring up a timeline. Let's put in this content here into my edit screen, and you'll bring up your timeline, and then you can have different views against the timeline. You could have a storyboard view, you could have the logging view where you can add metadata, or you could have the standard timeline view. Ben was asking about what's the bitrate of the proxy. In the area that Neil was about to show you, the back-end administrative interface, you can define what bitrate the proxy is. It really depends on your needs. If you're using Forscene for QA, then you'll have a higher bit rate. If you're using it for you know, reality TV, you'd have a low bit rate. If it's for sports and you want to distribute quickly, it's a lower bit rate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a piece of content that actually has multiple proxies. So this bit of content here has multiple proxies. So as I scale it, I retain the quality of the content as I scale. So I can slide through the content and I can see all of the detail that I need to see. The first thing to note is that this is a cloud-based solution and it feels like it's on my desktop. It feels like the media is on a drive that's plugged into my computer. So I can skip through that content. Now, there's not a lot of content there, so let's clear that and put some real content in there, and you can see how this feels. So I'm going to chuck in some 4K content. So this is Neil doing falconry. And what I want you to just note, at the bottom, you'll see this red bar. So wherever I move within the red bar, it starts to download that content ahead of time. But that doesn't stop me from just scrolling through the entire set of rushes that I've just dropped in. So I can scroll as I go, and it really feels like I've got all of that media there, even though it's downloading it into RAM on the fly as I move forward through those rushes. Now what I want to do is I want to get you some multicam content. So like I said, it feels like all of the content's there, and then when it gets really interesting is when you start trying to do 18 camera multicam. Again, you shouldn't be able to do 18 camera multicam in a browser. That shouldn't be possible, but you can with Forscene, and it really is because of our proxy. Okay, whilst Neil sorts his audio out, I shall just carry on talking, and maybe I'll answer some of these questions. So what's the max bit rate? You could do 100 meg if you really wanted to, but again, it really depends on your workflow and what you're using Forscene for. The codec itself only really requires a 1.2 to 1.5 megabit connection to operate the way that I've just operated it, regardless of the bit rate. So again, that's really down to the codec, down to the secret source of our solution. Hopefully that answers your question, Ben, but feel free to add a follow-on if you like.
I'm very sorry, guys. Can you believe it? My Mac just locked up completely. What are the odds? They're meant to be so much more reliable. Anyway, so here I am. So I saw that Aziz had already given you a brief overview. One of the things that I absolutely must point out is that you guys are watching this using the GoToMeeting software, and I'm sure that when I hit play like this, you're probably seeing these images update once or twice a second. I just want you to know, and you can definitely take a look at some of our tutorials and demonstrations on the Forscene YouTube channel, that everything that I see is smooth as silk. It's real time. If I shuffle, if I go backwards and forwards, this behaves exactly as if it's on my system, and there's no frame dropping, there's no glitching, and it's completely responsive. The key thing is that because we're caching the proxies into RAM on the computer, it behaves as if it's right here on my desktop. In fact, I have to say that Forscene in a lot of ways is more responsive than some editing systems I've used where the material is actually on a hard drive attached to my computer. So, and there's no latency whatsoever. When I hit, frame by frame on my keyboard, it steps frame by frame instantly. So I think as an editor, when I first heard about this concept, sitting in the cloud, I was very wary of the experience and what it was going to be like. But I have to say that as soon as I started using Forscene, I discovered that it was, easily the most effective browser-based editing system I'd ever come across. The other thing I think that we mentioned, which I don't know if many people have looked at, is multicam. So, for example, if I open up a piece of content here. This is some material that was shot using 4 cameras and a separate audio recorder. And if I drop down and I just show you the timeline for the rushes, you can see as I go through, you can see the different cameras coming in. And so now I've got my 4 cameras. I can select one of those as my master. And I'll just clear out this edit. So if I say I want to take some of this. One of the interesting things here is that this content, only one of the cameras had timecode. The other 3 cameras were domestic cameras and a GoPro, I believe, which didn't have any native timecode. But we are actually able to, in Forscene, to synchronize material based on an auxiliary timecode, and we can set that just by syncing up content. So if I show you in a moment, one of the assistants is going to come in, and I'll just unmute the audio for a second.
Marker, new camera. If you go right in front of his guitar, right back this way a little bit, just a bit more, you're good.
So I'll mute that now. So obviously, using those hand claps, we are able to synchronize this material. I'm looking at the proxies. I can now play through this content. I can switch on the fly, and I can build and edit as if I was switching real time. And then, but obviously, the edit I'm making is my offline. It's my my decision list, and then I can go back and I can tweak that and make changes. So we've got some other things that I wanted to show you. So the other thing that we can deal with is live streams. Let's have a look at some stuff from ABC7 in Sarasota in Florida. And this is one of our affiliates that we work with through a company called Field 59 in the US. So they supply content to a lot of TV stations across the US for news. And here what I can actually do is I can see the content from the feed, and if I play that, we can actually have this content coming in as a live stream, as a growing file, straight into Forscene, and we can see it about 15 seconds behind live. So this is used for news, for sports, for football highlights, soccer, and various other sporting events. And I can cut from this content. I can mark an endpoint, I can drag down and just drop that into a timeline. So if I switch over to the record timeline, you see there I've got my out point. So let's say let's come out there instead. Let's go and take another piece of content. And you can see one of the things that we have, this track just under the viewer. If I zoom right in on that and then I let those frames build, you'll see it's actually each frame of the video. And when you're zoomed out, that becomes almost like a video waveform. So I can see changes in media. So I can see that blue section there, that's obviously that commercial. If I go back down here, I can see where we come back in. So I'm going to set that as an endpoint. I'll set that as an out point. I'll just drag and drop that into my edit. And then if I come down to my edit point here, you can see if I play, just mute the audio again.
Traditional student demographic.
But if I want to go in and trim, again, I'm aware that what you're seeing is, nowhere near as smooth as what I'm seeing here. But again, like I say, if you take a look on the Forscene YouTube channel, and we'll give you information about that afterwards, then you can obviously go in and see this, see recordings, and see how this works in real time. Now, I think, I don't know if Aziz has had his camera out, but one of the things we also mentioned was the ability to do live upload from a mobile device. That's interesting. Oh, there he is. So here I've got some content.
Sorry, I'm on mute now. I can only say sorry for all of my mean morals. Sorry, I'm on mute now. I can only say sorry for all of the technical issues, but it seems to be going okay now.
So while I was editing away, Aziz shot some content on his mobile phone, and now I've just picked that up and dropped that into my edit.
Technical issues, but it seems to be going okay now.
So we can take content directly from a mobile device, an iPhone or an Android phone or an iPad or Android tablet. We upload the full resolution media straight into the cloud, and then we transcode to our proxy format and deliver that to the user interface in Forscene. So Aziz is actually in the office, by the looks of it, which I find remarkable. I'm at home, and you're in Australia. What I'll do is I'll quickly go in and I'll show people exactly how the user interface looks. So I'm just going to synchronize my phone.
I will start recording some content now, so you'll hear me say I'm starting to record some content now, and then I'll upload it, and because I've got a reasonable connection, you should relatively quickly see that content come into iOS.
Okay, well in fact, there it is now. I think this is Andrew's content.
I will start recording.
No, that's mine.
That's you, okay. So again, I can mark this, I can take part of this content and I can drag and drop into my timeline if I want to position this. And then we've got...
Hope you're enjoying the webinar. This is from an iPhone, but it could be any phone.
So if I wanted to trim that, I can come out there.
You're enjoying the webinar? Hope you're enjoying the webinar. I will start recording some content now. So.
Anyway, just to give you a very quick idea of how immediately we can get content from a device straight into the cloud and straight into Forscene. In the same way, we can tap into live streams, IP streams. We can run our transcoding engine in the cloud in either Microsoft Azure or in AWS, in Amazon Web Services, to deliver the proxies to the user roughly 15 seconds behind real time. And as I said, I mean, here I've got folders of content that's come in as live streams. I've also got a little bit of material that's come in from AWS. So this is some content that was brought in from material that was in Amazon EC3. So in storage, and we'll be making, we've just made an announcement, we'll be making more announcements at IBC about integration with Amazon and being able to use content that's already in Amazon as part of the content that you're working in with Forscene. So one other thing I wanted to show was subtitling. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open up a timeline or some logging information actually for a piece of content. So one of the things that you can do in Forscene is you can log your content, and that logging can be very simple, just with keywords and markers, or you can actually have a complete transcription or translation. And if we take a look at this content here as I go through it, you'll see that the translation that's been applied into this column, we can tell Forscene to pick that text information up, that metadata, and to display that as subtitles on the source media. And if I then go in and say I want to edit some of this content, again, in exactly the same way, if I set in point, out point, then I can go in and drop that into my timeline. So here you can see...
Sorry, that was just... it's just me saying, if anyone has any questions, please stick them into the questions panel, and we can show you all the things that you want to see. Thanks.
So here you can see I've actually got my content. I can change the frame at which the subtitle will switch from one subtitle to another. But I can also actually go in, and if I double click, I can go in and make changes to the text in the subtitles. So if I need to update what those subtitles say. So not only does it mean that you can, you can see subtitles on content that's been loaded in. So if you have information, an interview maybe that had been shot in a foreign language, you could actually see the translation directly as subtitles in the Forscene user interface. But when we output from Forscene, we can deliver these subtitles or these closed captions either burnt into the content or as a separate sidecar file, an XML or other subtitle formats. Or when we export from Forscene to Avid as AAF, we can put the subtitle information into the subcap tool in Avid directly. So it actually means that you can create your subtitles as part of your initial rough cut, your offline editing, rather than having it as something that you do after everything else has been done. So I mean, that's a quick overview of Forscene. I'm very aware that what you're seeing hasn't been at all real time, and so I think it would definitely be of interest for you to get a proper demonstration, or to at least just take a look on the YouTube channel and see some stuff and see how it actually works. And if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. There was actually a question, I know, somebody said, what's the maximum bit rate you can use? And I know that then again, what you're talking, what you're looking at is, can I work with my full resolution material here in Forscene? And the answer to that is, well, yes, if you've got enough bandwidth, then you can work with proxies at, very high resolution. But it's really the wrong question. You should be looking at making best use of your resources in terms of computing and storage and bandwidth. And there's no need to have your full resolution media if all you need to do is view, log, rough cut, and then link back to the full resolution in order to publish.
Neil, just before you hand over, firstly, I'm just curious if Mark's content actually made it into the iOS apps uploads. I'd like to finish that up. Could you just check that?
Yes, there we go.
There it is.
So we've got a couple of... so in fact,
so there's some questions.
There's probably a couple of uploaded. One, I uploaded portrait, which is not very helpful. The other, the most recent one, will be a landscape one.
So, Neil, just a question from Salvatore is multicam mode. What are the options to sync the footage? Just timecode or also audio in and out points?
We can basically, in multicam, we can sync using timecode. You can obviously then set an auxiliary timecode on clips that don't have timecode on them and use that as the reference. We can't yet automatically sync based on audio content, but we're looking at that. And we are going to be adding shortly the ability to set markers on content and to use those as the reference. So I know, for example, in Avid, you can synchronize based on in and out points. And that's something that we intend to add to Forscene soon. One of the things about Forscene, which is very interesting, is that the software is continuously being developed. We work with an agile methodology, and literally every couple of weeks, there's a new version of the software which we test. And then once we've tested it and checked it with all of our customers, and we have some beta test sites, then we roll that out. And so you get immediate updates. You've always got the latest version. You can run Forscene on any computer that can run Java. So a Mac or a PC, it doesn't matter, anything from about the last 4 or 5 years. It doesn't have to be a powerful computer. It doesn't have to have a lot of RAM. And again, one of the key things is you don't need a high bandwidth internet connection. You can work with 1.5 to 2 megabits. So I've literally done editing, I've done demonstrations just tethered to my mobile phone because the venue I was in, the Wi-Fi was not reliable, and so it was actually quicker and easier just to tether to my mobile.
So Neil, a couple more questions, which are one from Ben, one from Craig, which is similar. I assume you don't have an Avid at home. Ben's asking if you can just show the AF workflow to and from an Avid, but we can do that in a private demonstration for you, Ben. The majority of our clients have some sort of NLE out point and back in point, so it's something that we've worked very hard on. But I think it's worth just, to Craig's question, Neil, just elaborating on the compatibility with the other NLEs and really talking about what we do and what we don't do.
Well, what I've just done, which I hope will answer some of the questions, I've just opened up the panel for the metadata export for one of the edits that I have in my system. So here you can actually see I've got various flavors of XML to export to Final Cut Pro or other systems such as Resolve. I've got also XML for Final Cut Pro X. I've got various formats of AAF to go into Avid. I've even got CMX 3600, Red, various things for Final Cut for Adobe. And I've got I can export CSVs of the sequence information, and I can also export the subtitle folders. So I've also got the list of reels. I've got ALEs with handles and pre-rolls. I've got raw media shots. I've got logged intervals. All of these clips. So if I say I wanted to download this for Final Cut X, for example, if I just right-click and say download linked file, that will download that. So I'm not sure if I actually have the media for this on my system, so apologies if this doesn't actually work and relink, but this is exactly what will happen. It'll ask me project this is part of, and I believe this was part of XML tests. And when I say choose, it's actually going to bring in a timeline, and then it will link automatically to the media based on the metadata for that media. So this is it in Final Cut Pro X, but we do exactly the same thing in Avid and in Premiere. Yeah, so basically it's complaining about a couple of things, but then if I go back to, yeah, so yes, it hasn't actually found the media because I don't have the drive with the media attached. But you can see, not only can you see here is the timeline with the shots in it, but you can also see I've got markers. If we had multi-camera groups that were made in Forscene, those multi-camera groups come across into Avid or into Final Cut. We bring across subtitle data. We bring across all of the metadata that's been added within Forscene. So again, take a look at our YouTube channel and you'll see some demonstrations of relinking via AAF in Avid. So
Neil, another question here is from Ben again. He's asking, can a remote viewer watch an editor work? So if you go back into, if you go back to the root and then go to Neil's edits.
Mm-hmm. I think what he's asking though is, can you actually watch me working in real time? That's actually not the case. But
so if you go into Neil's edits, then you can show what we do. The one that you just made, the guitar guy, I've made some edits to that, so you can see version control against that.
Okay, so I'll actually show you if I clear this edit out. If I right-click on this edit and I ask to see previous versions, you can actually see that different editors have worked on this edit at different times. So this was the version that I made, and I cut that together, but then Aziz has made his own version, so he's literally gone into my edit, opened it up, and made changes. And as he's done that, he's he's added in some comments. So as a producer, for example, he could go in on another workstation. He can open up my edit. He can add comments to that edit, which I can then see in my timeline. They're color coded, and I can see who made those comments. And he doesn't destroy my edit. It branches and creates a new version of that edit. So we don't lock down edits and bins. We allow anybody who's got access to the project to work with that media, to work within that timeline. But as soon as they make a change, it branches and they're creating their own version. But of course, then you can take two different versions of an edit and you can cut those back together again to end up with the best of both worlds. So it's a very flexible system.
So, really good question from Ben. Any comments about the security concerns with Java? We don't see any security concerns. We've passed the information security process at some of the world's largest broadcasters, including NBC, which is incredibly draconian, and the BBC, which is even more draconian. And we pass those on the basis of our heritage and our history, and the fact that the way that we're using Java is really as a front-end solution as opposed to a server-side solution where some of the issues have happened. So no, we don't see that as a security issue, and it never has been a security issue. What I can say though is that the simple editor that we talked to in my presentation is built in JavaScript. So it's as responsive as Forscene, but less feature-rich. As time goes on, we will increase the number of features into that JavaScript editor, and that will become our long-term mitigation around any potential issues with Java, and those issues are more likely to be corporate issues of browsers not supporting it, although in fairness that's been on the cards since forever, and it's not really come to fruition, so it doesn't really cause us a problem, to be honest.
I see there was another sorry, I see there was another question about, yeah, how do you search logs? Just to show you, I'm going to go back. So I'm going to take this folder, which is all of the shots from a particular shoot. I'm going to drop that whole folder into my source viewer, and Forscene asks me how I want to organize it. So I'm going to say just organize by date. And then if I come down here, I'll switch to the timeline for that folder. And if I zoom out, you can see that, in fact, what I've got is all of the shots from that day's shoot laid out in the folder. And if we then look at the logging information, then here you can see this is all of the content that's been logged. If I scroll through, you can probably just about see a highlight moving, but if I double click, it'll take me directly to that point within the media. And if I say I want to search, so if I say start, I can see that's the start. If I say riders, I can see all of the shots that include the text riders. And if I then say, okay, let's take all of those shots and drag and drop those into my edit viewer, then you can see that what I've done now is I've created a rough cut or a sync pool based on the metadata that was entered into the logging data. And we've also got some subtitle information that was entered as well. So we can, as I say, start our subtitle workflow even though we're still working in Forscene in sort of offline mode.
Neil, there's a good question here from Catherine around closed captions. Are you able to handle closed caption files into either the edit or publish phase?
Yes, I mean we can extract closed caption data from live streams. I don't actually have one available on my system at the moment, but if we have a live stream coming in which has closed captions in it, we can extract that data and bring it into the timeline of the source. And then once we've edited something and we've used the closed captions or the subtitles in as part of the edit, and we can work with multiple tracks of captions, so you could subtitle something or caption something in different languages within the same timeline. When we export, we have options as to how we export that data, and we can export that, as I say, burnt in, or as a sidecar file, or as a separate file to import into another system, import into an encoder or into another nonlinear editing system. So we can, definitely bring closed caption data into Forscene. We can modify it very simply on a track in the timeline. So you can see here again, if I want to go in and change the duration or the position of that caption information, I can do that. and then when we export it, we can send it out in many different ways. I can see we get another question. Yeah, can I set my Avid keyboard shortcuts? Well, yes, you can. You can set keyboard shortcuts for Final Cut Pro 7, Media Composer, Premiere Pro, and you can then modify those on top of that. In fact, one of the interesting things that I find is we can actually set keyboard shortcuts not only as individual keys, but we can set macros, so we can stack keyboard shortcuts together. The other thing that we can do is we can set up what we call keyboard expansions, which is very useful for the loggers, in that you can set the function keys, or you can set abbreviations for regularly used text, such as location, character name, shot type, etc., so that when you're logging, when you're entering that metadata, you don't have to keep retyping the full name. You can just type the abbreviation and Forscene will fill it in. So this makes it quicker and easier to put that metadata in, but also it means that there's consistency, that the name is always being spelt correctly, so you don't end up trying to find a shot, and the reason you can't find it is somebody mistyped the name. I mean, we've really just scratched the surface of what's possible in Forscene. You have to see it for yourself. You have to play with it yourself. If you're an editor, then definitely you need to get hands-on to understand how it works and what a difference it can make. But the ability to just log in from anywhere, get access to your material, work with it, whether you're at home, in the office, on the train, on your iPad, it gives you so much freedom and the ability to collaborate with other members of the team. In fact, that's another thing I should bring up. We have a chat window built into Forscene which allows you to chat to other people. So, for example, there's Aziz. I can say, hi Aziz, and I can send that to him. Or we can chat directly to the support team. So if you have an issue, there's something that's not working for you, or you can't remember how to do something, you can actually go in and chat to the support team, and they'll come back to you very quickly. Thanks, Aziz.
Just a quick question there from Tony. Tony, can you map keyboard layouts?
Yes, you can, Tony, and it's good to see you. Tony and I used to work together in London 30 years ago. It's very nice to see him. So yes, so the keyboard layouts you can create and modify, and you can save them under different names, and you can make those keyboard layouts so they're assigned to a particular user or connected to a particular project, or you can assign them to a site. So your business, you might have multiple projects going on, but you can say, I want this keyboard layout to be available within all the projects on this site.
So I'll just wrap up from the Forbidden Technologies side and from the Forscene side. So we really have been on the forefront of cloud video for as long as we've existed, and through Stephen even before then. What we're announcing at IBC is we have started working directly with Amazon, with the senior media team at Amazon, to realize really their vision of globalized media, of having content in the cloud, put straight into the cloud via their Snowball solution, editable in the cloud and distributable from the cloud, either through Forscene or through Elemental. Essentially what we're driving towards is a workflow which won't be applicable to every production or every type of business, but will be to many, but a workflow where you never have to upload or download a single piece of content. And we think we'll get pretty close to that come NAB. This is already the most advanced cloud video solution in the market. Like Neil says, you really do have to see it for yourselves. We work with sports news, broadcasters, corporate clients, whatever your business. I really do encourage you to set up a private demonstration with Digistor. I know that you guys have got 1,000 projects and 1,000 priorities that you're all working on, but best to just have a look and then pop it into your roadmap and at least be aware of the technology that exists. We've spent a long time trying to get this into Australia, and so we're really happy that it's there. We've already got our first clients in Australia, so please do reach out to the Digistore team.
There's a couple of last questions. Did you see those, Neil and
Yeah.
Aziz? Do you want to handle?
I can see Tony's asking about if there's any simple grading capabilities. There are, actually. I can go in and adjust saturation. So if I want to make stuff black and white, or in fact, one of the things we've got is the ability to set white balance. It's very basic. I mean, it's just a way of correcting a shot, or using black and white instead of color on a shot. And obviously that isn't communicated to the to Avid or to the online system, as we don't have the ability to the information in its format. But for a quick fix to change a shot that was incorrectly white balanced, then we do have that available. And
you can comment that in the clip so that other users see that in maybe the final edit.
I could definitely add a comment to it to say, I white balance this shot. We can also do things like flips and flops and rotates, zooms, basic picture-in-picture. We can add graphics. We support graphics with alpha or animations with an alpha channel. So we can definitely build, a very good offline edit. And in fact, for some of our sports clients, what they're doing, they're using Forscene to cut their highlights, dropping their graphics packages on, and then publishing directly from Forscene to their delivery output. So to a content delivery network, or to Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or their website, directly from Forscene without ever going back to Avid or Premiere or Final Cut. I see Salvatore.
Neil, do you want to just take that question from? Yeah.
I can see just the first line. Sorry, one more question. Oh, here we are. Archive capabilities. Once a project is finished, how can we archive the original footage and retrieving project? Your original footage stays with you, so you can archive your original footage in exactly the same way as you do at the moment. The proxies and the metadata that you've created within Forscene, you can keep that in Forscene effectively for as long as you like. The proxies take up very little space in the cloud, and as long as you have an active account and active users, we don't have any issue with you keeping that in your project. So you can basically archive in the cloud. And again, a lot of what people are using Forscene for is to get access to their archive. So they're keeping the proxies for their archives in their projects in the cloud, and when they're using those in their edits, then they've got the metadata about where that full resolution media exists, so they can link back to it when they do their final output.
Okay, so I definitely want to, it's Mark Richards here again, I definitely want to thank Neil and Aziz for taking their time today. I think the most important thing that we can do and assist you with is exploring this further for your specific applications. The contact information is on the screen there. If we didn't get around to any of your questions for any reason that you typed in, they are all recorded, and we'll make sure that we get back to you personally and individually. We're also recording this event, so with any luck, we should be able to send you a YouTube link shortly so you can share with others. So at this stage, I want to thank you very much. If there's any other comments from Neil or Aziz.
Just to thank you all for joining today. Please share the webinar when we send it to you, to all of your colleagues, and do reach out to Digistore for a private demonstration.
Okay, we'll end the webinar now. Thank you very much.